All right, so today we're going to dive into the really interesting way the IB Middle Years Program, or MYP, handles assessment. It's all about measuring not just what students can remember, but what they actually understand and can do with their knowledge.
So let's kick things off with a big question that really gets to the heart of the whole MYP philosophy. I mean, think about it. What if the real goal wasn't just about getting the right answer, but about building the skills to find, question, and use those answers out in the real world?
You know, on one side, you have traditional assessment, which, let's be honest, can often feel like a high-stakes memory game. But the MYP approach, it completely flips that on its head. It's all about building a real, deep understanding of concepts, getting constant feedback, and, this is the big one, giving students the chance to apply their skills in totally new situations.
Okay, so what's the big idea driving all of this? Let's get into the core philosophy, because it's pretty powerful.
At its heart, it's all about putting the student right at the center of their own education. The entire program is built around these big, transferable ideas, not just a bunch of isolated facts to memorize. And that's what helps students see the connections between different subjects and between what they're learning in school and the world outside. It just creates a much deeper, more lasting kind of understanding.
And what's so cool about this model is how it shows that assessment isn't just something tacked on at the end. Not at all. It's woven right into the fabric of the whole process. It's part of this continuous loop that shapes what gets taught and how it gets taught, right from day one.
All right, so that's the philosophy, but how does it actually work in the classroom? Well, the MYP uses this super clear and transparent blueprint so students always know exactly what they're aiming for.
And this is a really big deal. It's not a competition. Students aren't graded on a curve or stacked up against their classmates. Instead, their work is measured against these really clear public standards for every subject. Everybody knows what the target is right from the start.
So here's a great example of what that looks like in practice. Each subject has 4 specific criteria. In science, for instance, you're not just being graded on what you know. Nope. You're also assessed on how well you can ask questions and design experiments, how you handle and evaluate data, and even how you think about the bigger impacts of science on the world. It's a complete, holistic picture of learning.
So how does all this turn into a final grade? Well, first, teachers collect all sorts of student work throughout the year, not just one test. Then, they use their professional expertise to see where a student lands on a scale of 1 to 8 for each of those 4 criteria. And finally, those levels are all brought together to find a best fit final grade. It's a process that really values growth and consistent effort, not just one performance on one day.
Okay, let's open up what we could call the learner's toolbox. All the different assessment methods the MYP uses to get a full picture of what students can really do. And spoiler alert, it's way more than just multiple choice tests.
And the beauty of this is how flexible it is. A student can show what they know by doing a deep dive investigation, building a solution to a problem, giving a presentation, or even composing a piece of music. It just recognizes that people are smart in all sorts of different ways.
You know, this focus on all these different tasks really points to another huge idea in the MYP. Yeah, the content is important, but the process of learning, the skills you build along the way, that's every bit as crucial.
These are what the MYP calls approaches to learning skills, or ATLs for short. They're broken down into these 5 key areas, and they get taught and practiced in every single subject. The whole point is to explicitly teach students how to think critically, communicate clearly, work with others, and manage their own learning. You know, the skills they're going to need for the rest of their lives.
And it all comes together in these amazing final MYP projects. In the community project, students team up to tackle a real need in their local community. And then there's the personal project, where a student gets to do a deep dive into something they're truly passionate about. It's this incredible, independent journey that lets them show off all the skills they've built up.
So, all of this sounds great, but why does it matter? What's the actual impact of assessing students this way? Let's take a quick look at what the research has to say.
Well, the research is pretty clear. This approach really works. One major study found that MYP students have a distinct advantage when it comes to critical thinking, which is, one of the most valuable skills you can have for university and for pretty much any job today.
And it's not hard to see why. Students are constantly being pushed to look deeper and see things from multiple angles. I mean, just check out this quote from a student in Norway who had to research and understand 2 completely conflicting ideologies. The program literally trained you to seek out and weigh different points of view, not just to accept the first one you hear. So when you add it all up, the advantages are really clear. This approach leads to deeper understanding. It builds skills that you can use anywhere,
It helps create a sense of global citizenship. And it can even lower the stress of just cramming for one big exam. It's about creating these well-rounded learners who are prepared not just for their next class, but for a really complex and connected world.
So here's the bottom line. Assessment is never neutral. It sends a really powerful signal about what we value. The MYP's approach shows a very clear choice. It's not just about measuring what someone knows, it's about intentionally shaping learners who are curious, who are critical thinkers, and who are compassionate, lifelong learners.